Don't worry, Winston. You are in my keeping. For 7 years I have watched over you. Now the turning point has come. I shall save you. I shall make you perfect. I told you that if we met again, it would be here.
Yes.
You are afraid that in another moment something is going to break. Your especial fear is that it will be your backbone. You have a vivid mental picture of the vertebrae snapping apart and the spinal fluid dripping out of them. That is what you are thinking, is it not, Winston? That was 40. You can see that the numbers on this dial run up to 100. Will you please remember, throughout our conversation, that I have it in my power to inflict pain on you at any moment and to whatever degree I choose? If you tell me any lies or attempt to prevaricate in any way, or even fall below your usual level of intelligence, you will cry out with pain instantly. Do you understand that?
Yes.
I'm taking trouble with you, Winston, because you're worth trouble. You know perfectly well what is the matter with you. You have known it for years, though you have fought against the knowledge. You're mentally deranged. You suffer from a defective memory. You're unable to remember real events, and you persuade yourself that you remember other events which never happened. But fortunately, it's curable. You have never cured yourself of it, because you did not choose to. There was a small effort of the will that you were not ready to make. Even now, I am well aware you are clinging to your disease under the impression that it's a virtue. Now, we will take an example. At this moment, which power is Oceania at war with?
When I was arrested, Oceania was at war with East Asia.
With East Asia. Good. And Oceania has always been at war with East Asia, has it not? The truth, please, Winston. Your truth. Tell me what you think you remember.
I remember that. Until only a week before I was arrested, we were not at war with East Asia at all. We were in alliance with them. The war was against Eurasia. That had lasted for 4 years. Before that...
Another example. Some years ago you had a very serious delusion indeed. You believed that 3 men, 3 one-time party members named Jones, Aronson and Rutherford, men who were executed for treachery and sabotage after making the fullest possible confession, were not guilty of the crimes they were charged with. You believed that you had seen unmistakable documentary evidence proving that their confessions were false. There was a certain photograph about which you had a hallucination. You believed that you had actually held it in your hands. It was a photograph something like this.
It exists!
Ashes. Not even identifiable ashes. Dust. It does not exist. It never existed.
But it did exist. It does exist. It exists in memory. I remember it. You remember it.
I don't remember it. There's a party slogan dealing with the control of the past. Repeat it, if you please.
Who controls the past, controls the future. Who controls the present, controls the past.
Who controls the present controls the past. Is it your opinion, Winston, that the past has real existence? You're no metaphysician, Winston. Until this moment, you had never considered what is meant by existence. I will put it more precisely. Does the past exist concretely in space? Is there somewhere or other a place, a world of solid objects, where the past is still happening?
No!
Then where does the past exist, if at all?
In your court. It's written down.
in records, and
In the mind, in human memories.
in memory. Very well done. We, the party, control all records, and we control all memories. Then we control the past. Do we not?
But how can you stop people remembering things? It is involuntary. It is outside oneself. How can you control memory? You have not controlled mind.
On the contrary, you have not controlled it. That is what has brought you here. You are here because you have failed in humility, in self-discipline. You would not make the act of submission, which is the price of sanity. You prefer to be a lunatic, a minority of one. Only the disciplined mind can see reality, Winston. You believe that reality is something objective, external, existing in its own right. You also believe that the nature of reality is self-evident. When you delude yourself into thinking that you see something, you assume that everyone else sees the same thing as you. But I tell you, Winston, that reality is not external. Reality exists in the human mind and nowhere else. Not in the individual mind, which can make mistakes, and in any case soon perishes, only in the mind of the party, which is collective and immortal. Whatever the party holds to be truth is truth. It is impossible to see reality except by looking through the eyes of the party. That is the fact that you have got to relearn, Winston. It needs an act of self-destruction, an effort of the will. You must humble yourself before you can become sane. Do you remember writing in your diary, freedom is the freedom to say that 2 + 2 make 4?
Yes.
How many fingers am I holding up, Winston?
4.
And if the party says that it's not 4, but 5, then how many?
4.
How many fingers, Winston?
4.
How many fingers, Winston?
4. 4. What else can I say? 4.
How many fingers, Winston?
4. Stop it. Stop it. How can you go on? 4. 4.
How many fingers, Winston?
5. 5. 5.
No, Winston. That is no use. You're lying. You still think there are 4. How many fingers? Please.
4. 5. 4. Anything you like. Only stop it. Stop the pain.
You're a slow learner, Winston.
How can I help it? How can I help seeing what is in front of my eyes? 2 and 2 are 4.
Sometimes, Winston. Sometimes there are 5, sometimes there are 3. Sometimes there are all of them at once. You must try harder. It's not easy to become sane. Again. How many fingers, Winston?
4. I suppose there are 4. I would see 5 if I could. I'm trying to see 5.
Which do you wish? To persuade me that you see 5, or really to see them?
Really to see them?
Again! How many fingers am I holding up, Winston?
I don't know, I don't know. You will kill me if you do that again. 4, 5, 6. In all honestly, I don't know.
Better. Do you know where you are, Winston?
I don't know, I can guess. In the Ministry of Love.
Do you know how long you have been here?
I don't know. Days, weeks, months. I think it's months.
And why do you imagine that we bring people to this place?
To make them confess.
No, that is not the reason. Try again.
To punish them.
No! No! Not merely to extract your confession, not to punish you. Shall I tell you why we have brought you here? To cure you, to make you sane. Will you understand, Winston, that no one whom we bring to this place ever leaves our hands uncured? We are not interested in those stupid crimes that you have committed. The party is not interested in the overt act. The doubt is all we care about. We do not merely destroy our enemies, we change them. Do you understand what I mean by that? The first thing for you to understand is that in this place there are no martyrdoms. You have read of the religious persecutions of the past. In the Middle Ages, there was the Inquisition. It was a failure. It set out to eradicate heresy and ended by perpetuating. For every heretic it burned at the stake, thousands of others rose up. Why was that? Because the Inquisition killed its enemies in the open and killed them while they were still unrepentant. In fact, it killed them because they were unrepentant. Men were dying because they would not abandon their true beliefs. Naturally, all the glory belonged to the victim and all the shame to the inquisitor who burned him. Later, in the 20th century, there were the totalitarians, as they were called. They were the German Nazis and the Russian communists. The Russian persecuted heresy more cruelly than the Inquisition had done, and they imagined that they had learned from the mistakes of the past. They knew, at any rate, that one must not make martyrs. Before they exposed their victims to public trial, they deliberately set themselves to destroy their dignity. They wore them down by torture and solitude until they were despicable, cringing wretches, confessing whatever was put into their mouths, covering themselves with abuse, accusing and sheltering behind one another, whimpering for mercy. And yet, after only a few years, the same thing had happened over again. The dead men had become martyrs, and their degradation was forgotten. Once again, why was it? In the first place, because the confession that they had made were obviously extorted and untrue. We do not make mistakes of that kind. All the confessions that are uttered here are true. We make them true. And above all, we do not allow the dead to rise up against us. You must stop imagining that posterity will vindicate you. You are thinking that since we intend to destroy you utterly, so that nothing that you say or do can make the smallest difference. In that case, why do we go to the trouble of interrogating you first? That is what you were thinking, was it not?
Yes.
You are a flaw in the pattern, Winston. You are a stain that must be wiped out. Did I not tell you just now that we are different from the persecutors of the past? We are not content with negative obedience, nor even with the most abject submission. When finally you surrender to us, it must be of your own free will. We do not destroy the heretic because he resists us. So long as he resists us, we never destroy him. We convert him. We capture his inner mind. We reshape him. We burn all evil and all illusion out of him. We bring him over to our side, not in appearance, but genuinely, heart and soul. We make him one of ourselves before we kill him. It's not intolerable to us that an erroneous thought should exist anywhere in the world, however secret and powerless it may be. Even in the instant of that, we cannot permit any deviation. In the old days, the heretic walked to the stake, still a heretic, proclaiming his heresy, exulting in it. Even the victim of the Russian purges could carry rebellion locked up in his skull as he walked down to the passage, waiting for the bullet. But we make the brain perfect before we blow it out. The command of the old despotism was, thou should not. The command of the totalitarians was, thou shalt. Our command is, thou art. No one whom we bring to this place ever stands out against us. Everyone is washed clean, even those three miserable traitors in whose innocence you once believed, Jones, Aronson, and Rutherford. In the end, we broke them down. I took part in their interrogation myself. I saw them gradually worn down, whimpering, groveling, weeping. And in the end, it was not with pain or fear, only with penitence. By the time we had finished with them, they were only the shells of men. There was nothing left in them except sorrow for what they had done and love of Big Brother. It was touching to see how they loved him. They begged to be shot quickly so that they could die while their minds were still clean. Do not imagine that you will save yourself, Winston, however completely you surrender to us. No one who has once gone astray is ever spared. And even if we choose to let you live out the natural term of your life, still you would never escape from us. What happens to you here is forever. Understand that in advance. We shall crush you down to the point from which there is no coming back. Things will happen to you from which you could not recover if you lived 1,000 years. Never again will you be capable of ordinary human feeling. Everything will be dead inside you. Never again will you be capable of love or friendship or joy of living or laughter or curiosity or courage or integrity. You will be hollow. We shall squeeze you empty, and then we shall fill you with ourselves. 3,000. This time it will not hurt. Keep your eyes fixed on mine. It will not last. Look me in the eyes. What country is Oceania at war with?
I don't remember.
Oceania is at war with East Asia. Do you remember that now?
Yes.
Oceania has always been at war with East Asia. Since the beginning of your life, since the beginning of the party, since the beginning of history, the war has continued without a break. Always the same war. Do you remember that?
Yes.
11 years ago, you created a legend about 3 men who had been condemned to death for treachery. You pretended that you had seen a piece of paper which proved them innocent. No such piece of paper ever existed. You invented it, and later you grew into believing it. You remember now the very moment at which you first invented it. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Just now, I held up the fingers of my hand to you. You saw 5 fingers. Do you remember that?
Yes.
There are 5 fingers there. Do you see 5 fingers?
Yes.
You see now that it is at any rate possible.
Yes.
Do you remember writing in your diary that it did not matter whether I was a friend or enemy, since I was at least a person who understood you and could be talked to? You were right. I enjoyed talking to you. Your mind appeals to me. It resembles my own mind, except that you happen to be insane. Before we bring this session to an end, you can ask me a few questions, if you choose.
Any question I like?
Anything. It is switched off. What is your first question?
What have you done with Julia?
She betrayed you, Winston. Immediately. Unreservedly. I have seldom seen anyone come over to us so promptly. You would hardly recognize her if you saw her. All her rebelliousness, her deceit, her folly, her dirty-mindedness, everything has been burned out of her. It was a perfect conversation, a textbook case.
You tortured her?
Next question.
Does Big Brother exist?
Of course he exists. The party exists. Big Brother is embodiment of the party.
Does he exist in the same way as I exist?
You do not exist.
I think I exist. I am conscious of my identity. I was born and I shall die. I have arms and legs. I occupy a particular point in space. No other solid object can occupy the same point simultaneously. In that sense, does Big Brother exist?
It's of no importance. He exists.
Will Big Brother ever die?
Of course not. How could he die? Next question.
Does the Brotherhood exist?
That, Winston, you will never know. If we choose to set you free when we have finished with you, and if you live to be 90 years old, still you will never learn whether the answer to that question is yes or no. As long as you live, it will be an unsolved riddle in your mind.
What's in room 101?
You know what is in room 101, Winston? Everyone knows what is in room 101.